Razorback Nation, welcome into today's episode of Hogs on the Hill, your go-to place for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas sports. And today's episode is brought to you by our lovely sponsors over at Razor Pigs. Looking good never felt so fun, y'all. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born branded, bringing some serious style to the golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turning hats, they've got what you need to rep the natural state with pride. Founded right here at home and now run by a Razorback-loving family, Razor Pigs is where comfort meets cool. So get ready to go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs at razorpigs.us today. Go check them out. Fantastic hats. You can see Hobbs wearing one right here for you. This is one of their many options. Comes in red, black, the white, and they also got several other fantastic hats and polos for you to check out. And we're getting ready. This is going to be a fun show, you guys. We're going to talk about the big series with Texas this weekend. And before we do, we've got former Arkansas Razorback Rick Nomura joining us for the show tonight and to kind of break down some of his thoughts and talk about his time here at Arkansas. So, Rick, welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm psyched.
Yeah, so we knew you mentioned you flew in, so you're here for the series this weekend. So, how was the travel and everything like that? I know you said it was raining and everything when you got here, but, after that travel, how does it feel to be back here in Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, no, it feels great. It's like just being back and you see the field when you're driving in, and it's just brings back all those memories of just being a hog and calling the hogs. And I know I said it before that, it always gave me chills before every single game. You hear the fans calling the hogs, and just bleeding Razorback red to me was like something that I'll always cherish for the rest of my life. So for now, my wife and my parents and my brother who's here, it's awesome. Unfortunately, we got to see Nolan Souza already. We didn't get to see the Lloyd Brothers yet, but hopefully soon. I don't want to bug them too much. I know it's a pretty big weekend coming up, and I mean we're psyched. I mean you get to see a top team come into Fayetteville, and we know how tough it is to play here. I played here, and it's pretty hard to beat this experience. So I'm very happy that my family and now my wife is here to experience it.
100%. So you mentioned it talking about it. You played here in 15 and 16. So talk a little bit about kind of looking back down memory lane. What does it look like, for you or your journey to Arkansas? I know you played a year of ball before coming to Arkansas. So kind of what would that look like, your path getting to Arkansas with Coach Dave?
Yeah, I know it was an interesting path. I had to go to a junior college down in Alvin, Texas, where Nolan Ryan's from. And fortunately, Coach Van Horn seen me play, and he said he needed someone who played with like fire on their head, and that's kind of something I brought to the team. And I knew about Coach Van Horn. He recruited a guy in Nebraska named Shane Komine, good player, and I just knew that they had a good program here at Arkansas, so I was super stoked to be here.
Yeah, man. So, I don't know if you've been able to catch these games, but the Hawaiian gear is decked out everywhere in the stadium, right? So I think you were the first Hawaiian to play for Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken. How does it feel to like look back like 5 years? I guess more than 5 years, 8 years later, and see all that still, I don't want to say embracing the culture, but like embracing the Hawaiians that are here now. And then how crazy is it to see like three on the same team at once?
Yeah, I mean, it's just surreal, to see that these kids are getting recognized and they get to experience what I experienced. Telling kids that Arkansas has the best fans in the nation, and they actually get to see what I'm talking about. Like I saw Nolan today, and I was like, I was right, huh? And he's like, yeah, coach, this is pretty awesome, like being here. But like now that you see like Vahiva and Kuhil's on the team as well, and it's just like I'm just so happy and so fortunate to be a part of this experience, to be a part of them. Like these guys are awesome players. Like I think it's just the local boy in us that you always want people to do well from Hawaii. And to see them being where they're at, Vahiva's battling for the Golden Spikes Award. Like it's one of those things that's just like it's almost priceless. Like for kids from Hawaii, they're gonna be looking up to these guys for years to come. And I told that to Nolan, today. It's like kids look up to you, man, and what you're doing out there at Arkansas, and it's awesome. Yeah, I know you got hurt and stuff, but the way you handled adversity, that's a prime example of what we're using. That you know what, you didn't back down. It didn't break you. You just kept battling back. And same thing like Vahiva guys and Kuhil, like these guys are just hitters. They come from a good bloodline, good family, and it's for me just seeing the local boys. I just want them to do way better than I did, and I want them to win, a championship at Omaha. Like, I want them to bring that trophy home, and it'd be so awesome if there's 3 Hawaiian kids on the team that do it.
Yeah, so you it sounds like you know them pretty well. What's the relationship with like Nolan Souza and the Aloy brothers and all that? How do you know them from back home, or do you just kind of know them through the grapevine, or tell me just a little bit about the relationship?
Yeah, so we'll start with Nolan. So Nolan's on my dad and my brother were coaching him at Punahou. And so they got to coach him when Nolan was young, and COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I just moved back home from Vegas, and my brother was like, "Hey, would you want to run clinics?" And I was like, "Hey, man, there's like this kid at Punahou that's like, he looks pretty physical, and I think this guy has like potential to play for the Hogs one day." And my brother's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we just put together like a clinic, had guys come out, and I seen Nolan field like firsthand and seen him hit. And I called Coach Van Horn and I was like, "Coach, I think I might have finally found you someone from Hawaii." And he's like, "Really, Rick?" So anyway, I sent him the videos and stuff, and then yeah, that one it was pretty cool how it happened so fast. But yeah, Nolan, we knew him for a little while, and then the Aloys is my father was coaching at the University of Hawaii, and Jamie Aloy played at the University of Hawaii, so. There's a connection there with the University of Hawaii. And, we run these games called Sunday Night Baseball back at home. It's our family's nonprofit. And it's just basically trying to get players together, and you just competing against each other because we're firm believers that you need to play against the best to be the best. And the Lloyd brothers would sometimes fly in to play. And it was always a privilege to have those two there because obviously they could hit. So if they're there to the pitchers, it's good because you need to test yourself against a good hitter. Like, we have a kid back at home. I won't mention his name, but he's like, "You know what my fame to glory is, coach?" I was like, "What is that?" He goes, don't tell Vahiva this." I struck him out. And I was like, "Oh my God." But it's things like that, I don't know if Nolan or the two brothers know that, they're very like idolized, in the States. So it's awesome to see, that what they're doing, and how just the connection of our family just trying to help kids get to the next level led to what it is now, that there's 3 Hawaii kids on the Razorbacks, and there's possibly one more on the way. We're hoping he can come to school, but we'll see what happens. 'Cause I don't know what the MLB will be up to.
Yeah, man. If you keep turning them out, just keep sending them back to Fayetteville. I'll take
Yeah.
all of them.
I was about to say, yeah, like Austin said, and like you're talking about the relationship with them, and then you having that connection with Coach Van Horn. It almost seems like a lot of people have talked about, like, is this the start of seeing a pipeline of Hawaiian players headed to Arkansas to play for the Razorbacks?
Yeah, I mean that would be awesome, if that's a goal. But we do make it clear to the kids that, look, man, we're not gonna stick our necks out on the line if you're not gonna do things right. Especially the little things like running a hard 90 or putting a bunt down for the team, or taking a like wearing a bean or something. Like, we want these kids to be like Arkansas players, or my dad calls them Omaha players. Guys who are gonna do the little things right, and try to extend the single to a double or things like that. And it's like, it's tough because everybody wants to go to play for the Razorbacks, especially in Hawaii now. And obviously they want to go to University of Hawaii, but a lot of kids see what's happening with Souza and the two Aloy brothers. They want to be a part of that. You can't tell me they don't see all the social media going on with all this Aloha Hog stuff going on, and all the pants and shirts and all this kind of stuff. I was like, damn, I missed it by a couple of years. This is cool, man. So I'm just like super stoked for the kids that they get to live up this opportunity. And I always tell them, baseball is only like a few percents of your life. So enjoy it. Take a step back, just look at the crowd sometimes, because I did that. I'll take a step back, and in between innings, I'm just looking at the crowd like, I can't believe I made it here. Like, this is so surreal that a kid from Hawaii playing on like just whatever kind fields to this pristine field that's laser graded at Arkansas, and you have these fans going nuts. Or I was at Walmart and kids want my autograph, and I'm like super stoked. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll give you an autograph, and they want pictures, and I think it's just a experience that I can probably talk your guys' ears off. I don't want to sound super biased, but I don't think I'm biased, and I'm just telling the truth. it's it's probably one of the best places to play, and that's probably why they're always at the top every single year.
Yeah. So you mentioned that. So kind of talk a little bit about it. So, Dave got you here. You're 2 years playing for him. What was it like playing specifically for Coach Van Horn, but also playing at Arkansas and, like you said, just kind of seeing the crowd, the field, and this establishment and how kind of, like you said, pristine it was.
Yeah, so to me, Coach Van Horn was very, very fair. I asked him in the first phone call we had. I was like, "Hey, Coach, am I going to get a fair shot to play second base?" And he's like, "Rick, we don't have anyone penciled in until the fall is complete." And I was like, "Okay." So he basically kept his word because there was about 10 of us out there for 2 spots. And I asked him, "Coach, what do I got to do to play?" He's like, "Rick, you run well, you hit well, your defense is well, but you got to turn the double play faster." I was like, "Oh, how fast?" And he's like, "It should be under 4 seconds, about 4 seconds or under." And I was like, "Really? So what am I turning it at?" He said 4.4. I was like, "Oh." So basically, I'll go into that fowler almost every day after practice and spend about an hour and a half just with a bucket of balls, just by myself, just throwing into the net every single day. And fortunately, he did take the times again, and I got it down to a 3.8. And come opening day, I seen my name on that roster. And for me, it's just a proud moment. As a kid from Hawaii, and my father wanted me to go to UH in the worst way. Fortunately, I didn't get recruited by the University of Hawaii, so that's kind of how it led to me going to JUCO, and just making it to where I made it is just it can get emotional sometimes. Especially for my family. They seen what I went through and stuff, and just to make it to this point and to be on your guys' talk show, this is sick, dude. It just, I'm just so proud to show my parents, on the kid they raised, and being able to call them my parents makes me proud. But I hope they feel the same, that I'm their son. We're at Doe's, and they're pointing out my signature on the board, and they're like, "Wow, look, like." So I don't know. It just chills, man. It's just so, I'm just so happy to be here. So stoked.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, Rick. You talking about being stoked. I felt that way every time I watched you come to the plate. It's almost like a decade ago, but it's watching you play. You brought the energy to the team, and you're clearly a fan favorite. So it's just it's pretty neat actually, being on the show with you today and actually getting you an opportunity to ask you a question. So
Yeah.
number one, I appreciate you putting on the Hog jersey and playing for this university, because you were definitely one of my favorites to watch play. And I kind of got a 3-parter here. Your thoughts on this weekend series with Texas being the number 1 team in the nation, and somewhat of a rivalry. It's a fan rivalry, but I don't know if the baseball team really sees it that way because they ain't really played them in so long. And what's your thoughts on how the team's been doing this year and how a team can go about, riding the ship after losing 3 straight series?
Yeah, no, I mean, first, I appreciate you saying those kind words. There is a lot behind the scenes that goes on, and we definitely want to be, putting our best foot forward. But yeah, coming up with this series, we've seen it, and my parents and my brother and my wife are like, we should fly in for the Texas series. I think this would be a good one. It's a rivalry that's going to happen. 2 prestigious programs going to go at it. I think it's going to be a dogfight. Like anything else, it's super tough to come into Fayetteville and win the series. And I believe in the law of averages. You see what happened, and it's hey, the Razorbacks are due to bounce back. That's what I'm looking at. What, they might have lost a few series in a row, but then again, the SEC is the toughest conference in the nation, and it's going to happen. But I think with the way the coaching staff is to deal with adversities and to see how they handle things, I think the Hogs will be fine. They got Root that's obviously going to go and do his thing, and you got, the pitching staff, and obviously you got Vahiva, who's just basically a threat every single swing he takes. Um, I just at one point, yeah, it was like pretty spooky to see that Nolan Souza was the 9th batter in the team. I was like, holy cow, that means you got 8 guys hitting better than him right now, and it's like it's a scary lineup. Even if now Souza's not in the lineup, I believe Frazier or oh no, Frazier, I think he might be hurt. I'm not sure anyway, but I think there's going to be obviously a threat in the lineup, and they can put up a 5 spot at any time. And I hope they put up the 5 spot, so we can see a lot of runs and being hit around. But I think it's going to be a very good series because yes, Texas does have a great team this year. They're well coached. Also, they got talent on that team, so it's going to be exciting because it's just going to be 2 Goliaths going at it. We're going to be seeing some blows left and right, and I just can't wait, and I hope it's the Hogs come on top.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, it's like you said, law of averages, regression to the mean, whatever you want, whatever way you look at it. It's like you said, the Hogs are due one. They've gotten through this, little stretch of losing 3 straight. And, you and I both know, what type of team this is, what type of coach DVH is, and, how he runs his program. And so, they're due to bounce back. And don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thinking about it, talking about your time at Arkansas, what do you have one specific, what's your favorite memory of Arkansas, or what is your, favorite memory of playing for Arkansas at Baum, or just about Fayetteville in general?
Oh, okay. Oh. I mean, eating at Doe's, that's obviously like, I know that's not baseball related, but when I first ate here, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever had, so it's kind of ironic I'm here doing the show at Doe's, but I would say when we won the Super Regional and it was after the game when we stood up on the tarps and we called the Hogs all together. That was probably the most memorable. I know people probably think Omaha is the probably most memorable place or whatever, but to me, having those old school uniforms on and being doubted all year, and we proved everyone wrong, and we're going to the World Series, and I remember hugging Benintendi, just yelling at him like, "We did it!" Like, I can't believe it! Like, and Zach Jack it was just such a memorable experience to be a part of that, and my father went to the World Series, and I've always wanted to go to the World Series. And knowing that, like, I'm a part of that group now, they can say like I've been to the College World Series because it's very, very hard to get to. Like I've seen many teams that are better than the team we had. But it comes together with the guys who have the heart, the guys who are just playing good at the right time, to getting the right hit, the right put down the correct bunt, all that stuff. Like it just. Some teams get hot at the right time, and I'm hoping that's what happens with Arkansas this year. Yeah, they're in a little rut right now, but hey, hopefully they just bounce right back and bang, they're just on a roll. And that's why I truly believe in the law of averages. You look at how things are going and how this team is, but yeah, that was a pretty big memory for me, just being a part of that team and being able to be a part of that experience to call the Hogs, and then obviously that section 101. They're big. They hold a special place in my heart. Because it was hard for my family to come up to Arkansas and stuff, but I always felt loved, and it's just unreal that I had a section that had like wore palm trees, and they have like merchandise now. I just like. To me, like, if I have kids one day, like I want them to look back and see like, wow, dad was like a real class act. And, that's how my parents always taught us, you have one last name. So try to represent it in the best way you can. So my dad always will get on us for not running a hard 90 or, like just, he just wanted us to be the best people that we could be. So coming to Arkansas and being a part of that, and seeing the fans and being part of like those teams and learning from Coach Van Horn, like to me, he's the best coach in the country, by far. By the way he holds himself and the way he handles players and gets the best out of players. Yeah, he's gonna try to push your buttons, but you have to understand that he's trying to make you into a better person. And for me, that's another big memory. Like when he called me for the first time, it was like God. I knew who he was, but he didn't really know me too much, but I knew him. So when I got on the phone, and this is Coach Dave Van Horn from University of Arkansas, I was like, Oh my God. So I don't know, man. I'm just kind of rambling right now because there's so many memories that come out of this. Um, but yeah, I would say that would stick out in my mind the most is when, Zach Jack struck out that guy and we jumped on those tarps and called the Hogs one last time in front of like 13 or 14,000 people that are just roaring. And it was awesome. Yeah, it was the best.
Yeah, it's like my wife says here. There's something so special about calling the Hogs from the field with your team. You feel like part of something that's so much bigger than just an individual player, and that's the big part of it. Yeah, you have these great individuals, but if it's not for every single person on the team that makes up, and gets you to where you are, and like to your point, everything in the rut with Arkansas right now, it's about having that headstrong and tough mentality that, yeah, we're struggling right now, but we're gonna bounce back. And if anybody knows that, it's like DVH. As long as he's been around, he's gonna get these guys right. And I'm like you, I feel confident that they're gonna break out of it, and hopefully, like you said, get hot at the right time and get ready to make a run this year.
Yeah, I mean, it probably sounds bad that I'm like, oh yeah, they're in a rut, but then it's like I'm looking at it in a positive way, like, oh, I'm ready for them to like really start, getting things going. So I'm not trying to jinx anything or anything, but I just feel like with the coaching staff they have, they know what they're doing. They know how to run a team, and I think it's easy for people to probably start wondering about this and that, but it's like, nah, I play for these guys. They know what they're doing. They have a good setup over there. They got a good trainer, Corey Wood. Is best in the country. He'll get you right. Like he'll make sure you get on that field and you're ready to go. So for me, like, oh, it's I'm so psyched to watch the game tomorrow. And like, oh, these kids have like all this like super nice gear now. I'm not saying we didn't have nice gear, we did, but I was like, oh, their stuff is like all customized now and stuff. And I see Coach Van Horn let some like color their hair and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I'm super, yeah. I'm just psyched to be at the game tomorrow, and hopefully we get to see you guys at the game. I see that they're gonna be selling like all kind of stuff, I guess, for the weekend. So or giving away things and stuff. So I'm just super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I don't want to take more of your time either, but I am kind of curious. What are you doing now that we're almost a decade out of being out of college? What are you doing now?
So I'm an insurance agent back at home. Like we write commercial insurance and personal insurance, and then we run our family's nonprofit, which is we'll take a team to Ohio in the Midland area, which is where like Benintendi, Scroggins, they all played at in the summer. So we want Hawaii kids to experience playing against this kind of caliber of players because that's the only way you're going to get better. You have to play that competition. Like there's no shortcuts. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. So like our family try to subsidize as much as we can for the trip. And so we have them on a schedule, get them up at 8 o'clock ish, for breakfast, and they got to do like their weight training and stuff. Then we go to the field. They're gonna practice or play a game, then come home. They got to do their stretching. We're gonna do the laundry for them, and basically we're just trying to show these kids structure, on how it's gonna be in college. So when they get there, they don't feel like an incoming freshman. They actually feel like a sophomore. Like, oh, I've been there before. I've done it. So to me, it also keeps me kind of sane, with the craziness and the insurance market right now. There's a bunch of things going on. So being able to just go to the baseball field, hit fungo, or, field some ground balls with these guys, like yeah, I'll never lose the love for baseball. So just being able to give back in that sense, it's like, it's crazy. Like just helping kids get better and to see them like get to where they're at. It's priceless for our family, because my dad always said, and my mom also said the same thing too, is like, how are you going to leave your mark on this world? And that's how we're doing it. We want to give back to the community because we never had this in Hawaii. Hawaii, unfortunately, doesn't have really club teams or that kind of stuff too much. So this was our opportunity. And it all happened during COVID because you basically couldn't leave the island. And a coach wasn't going to fly to go watch players on a rock that he probably may or may not recruit. He doesn't know. It's like hit or miss. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. And it's been a blast. Like my brother set up the nonprofit, and yeah, we're basically just trying to get this trip so it's free for the kids so we can take them up because like a gallon of milk in Hawaii is like $8 now. It's like ridiculous. Like, so we're trying to subsidize as much as we can, and fortunately, people have been like donating and helping out the nonprofits so that we can subsidize it for the kids so they can get the opportunity to play. Because like Nolan came on our trip, and then we tried to get the Lloyd brothers, but they already had stuff set up with the colleges they're going to. So at that time, we couldn't take them up. But no, there's quite a few kids that we've helped, and I think I like to say we're leaving a good mark on this world.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, if there's anybody listening and wants to kind of help out, where can they go to, donate to nonprofit to help out,
Yeah, it'll be at hawaiitigers.com or it'll be at nomuraacademy.com. So my brother has it all set up on the Instagram pages, and then the websites will all be there. But it's just great, that it's like for us just to keep ourselves sane, and then now we're here and get to see Nolan, and it's like, wow, we remember him when he was a little kid and he had these huge feet, and then now he's just a specimen, and it's like it's crazy that like. I mean, I don't want to take away the credit from the kid, because he's obviously put in all the hard work, raised by a good family, does all the little things right. So, I mean, but just to see him and talk story with him, to see that he's the same kid that, we met, good kid, and that's just like what we like to see. And what we're trying to do is produce kids to be good people.
That's awesome to hear. Austin, Hobbs, you guys got anything else?
I'm good, man.
Oh man, great stuff. Fascinating. I really appreciate you sharing all that with us.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I know I can kind of ramble a little bit. I know it's just there's so much stuff that it's like, yeah, like it's so hard to talk about it sometimes because it's like, do I talk about this or that? Because yeah, it's to me the experience here is it's one of a kind. I know I probably said that maybe about 10 times now, but it really is. That's why like seeing the culture here, and it was crazy. Like flying over, a guy recognized me. I was telling my wife, I was like, oh, we'll see how it goes. I don't think people are going to really remember me too much. But then the guy in the airport was like, oh, Rick Nomura. I sit in section 102, man. I sure miss watching you play. I was like, oh my God. Like, to me, it's just, I felt so loved, that someone like that in the airport is, still is able to come up to me and just talk story. Like, I thought that was awesome. And my father always told me, enjoy it, because not everyone gets to be in that position. So always take a step back and just enjoy the moment. And so I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, with University of Arkansas being kind of the premier team in the state, you are essentially a celebrity once you come here, and like you play for the team. Everybody roots for you. With no pro teams being in Arkansas, you are the pro team. You are the team that everybody looks to. Like you said, idolizes. You're a celebrity to them, and so yeah, that's really cool to hear. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. We'll let you go ahead and get back to dinner with your family. And like you said, hopefully we will see you at the games this weekend. But if not, enjoy your time here in Fayetteville. Soak it up. I know you don't get to come back probably as much as you want, but
yeah,
you're here now for a big time series. So maybe you can bring a little luck to the Hawgs this weekend, being in town to watch them.
that's what we're hoping for.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking time to join us on the show, and you have a great rest of your trip here in Northwest Arkansas.
Thanks, guys. Go Hogs. Take care.
Go Hogs. We'll see you.
Take care.
So that was Rick Nomura, former Arkansas baseball player, joining us tonight, talking a little bit about his time at Arkansas, his relationship with the Aloy brothers, Nolan Souza, his nonprofit that he helps run with his brother, a little bit about the series for Arkansas, the mentality that they have. It was really cool getting to talk to him and, getting his insight on that, and, just hearing about his experience and getting to come to Arkansas. And so, with that, we talked to him a little bit about it. We'll dive into Arkansas has a big series this weekend with Texas coming to town, number one team in the country. As we all know, Arkansas really struggling these past three series. This is a great premier opportunity for the Hogs to kind of bounce back here and get ready for these last three series of the season. So, going into this weekend, we know a little bit about what pitching rotation is going to look like. Dave talked about it today in his press conference. You're going to have Root on Thursday. He's your game one guy. That's not changed. Gage Wood's going to be your game 2 guy. Not sure what type of leash he's going to have. If he's going to have a pitch count that's a little bit longer than last week. We saw him go 3 innings, about 40 pitches roughly. And then game 3's TBD. Could be Battle Cheese. It could be somebody else. It just depends. So, going into this weekend, your initial thoughts on this, you guys, Hobbs, Austin?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if I share the same enthusiasm that Rick did going into it. I'm also, I've been a Hawk fan my entire life, and I get, I guess PTSD from from things like this. But man, Texas is they're the real deal, right? I'm a little worried about the pitching. It's kind of gone steadily downhill, and it's kind of feels like it's about to bottom out. And then now having this to be announced thing on game 3, I'm a little worried about it. But again, it's Dave Van Horn, and it's the Arkansas Razorbacks baseball team. So I'm not going to put it out of the question that they can win this series. Heck, they could probably go out there and sweep them if they play up to their potential. It's just, are they going to? So I'm a little worried about it, but I haven't completely lost hope.
So the game 3, that's more of I think we're going to try to see how the first 2 games go before he decides that. Maybe a pitching by committee on game 3. So we'll just see how that happens to pan out, because unfortunately we've got 3 big time pitchers hurt right now. And excuse me, it doesn't help. Parker Cole is out. Looks like Wiggins is out. Probably won't pitch again this year. Got some good news. He had a second MRI today. I haven't heard anything on that, but as far as we know, there's no tear on it, but that's only what the first one said. So we'll see what the second one says when we get info on that. So you got Wiggins and Cole out, and then you've got who else am I missing here?
Who else is hurt? Do you potentially see, with this being such a big series this weekend, Hunter Dietz?
So first of all, there's no more midweek games. So
right,
praise God for that. I hate midweek games. We're in May pretty much here in the next couple hours. We'll be in May. I don't want to see midweek games anymore. It's time to play ball and play the real deal. So we got 3 big time series. So you're gonna see them at some point. Especially with the injuries we have now. We need him. Hopefully, Dave Van Horn said he pitched a bullpen session yesterday, and he looked really good through the live hitters. So hopefully we get him at some point, because we're going to need him with the injuries we have and the rotation. So, and then as far as Texas goes, how I feel about them, I'm not really sold that I think they're probably the weakest team that we play left, in my opinion. They don't impress me a whole lot. They've won a lot of close games. They played majority of their tough opponents at home. So we'll see what they're made of this weekend too. So they do have really good pitching. Their pitching staff is very good. Their hitting is about middle of the pack of the SEC. So they can hit the ball, but not like us. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But at the end of the day, if we're going to win this series, I don't even want to think about sweep. I just want to win the series. If we're going to win this series, we got to have some pitchers step up. And of course, you got to hit the ball too. I'm not just going to say you got to just pitch, but we got to stop folks from scoring runs. But hitting wise, Dave Van Horn didn't mention Gabe Frazier's dealing with something. So just like Rick just said earlier too, that he may be hurt. Apparently he's dealing with something. So I don't know how much availability he has this weekend, We know that Maxwell may be out the whole weekend. He may, may be available to pinch hit, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be playing the outfield. So that means we're going to see Diggs and Bulls. Probably rotation depending on there's a lefty or righty on the mound. But it sounds like we're going to have a first baseman play because Dave Van Horn said you're probably we need a guy to step up that ain't played much. So is that Anderson or is that Robinette? Who is that? Pepe ain't played much either. So one of those three are going to probably be in the lineup most of the weekend if Frazier is dealing with something that like Dave Van Horn saying. So
right. So you probably see Kozel playing a lot of second.
Probably so.
Yeah. Yeah. Transplant Texan jumps in here and says, bats will need to be hot this weekend. Hawgs have only won 5 games with 4 runs or less. Pitchers have to keep the Texas bats from getting that lead early and adds pressure to the Hawgs batting out of a hole. 100% there. And I think that's a big thing, and you hit on it too. There's a lot of question marks this weekend, like you said, with with Frazier potentially being out or limited, with Maxwell being out or limited, a guy like, Reese Robinette, he's good defensively. Can he find the bat and, start making some noise at the plate? Or Anderson, to your point, like a guy you haven't seen hardly at all this year, does he capitalize on an opportunity? He's played a couple midweek games, but does he kind of take a hold of an opportunity for him to play? And then Pepe, we've seen him in and out of the lineup, had that stint where he was hurt, but then he comes back and, seems like he struggled a little bit. So it's like, who's going to be the guy that steps up this weekend, both at the plate? What you get out of that top of the order, Davlon, the Lloyd brothers, Iredale. Who's going to be that other guy to step up? And then from the mound, like we said, we know we got Root and Wood coming. Don't know how much of Wood you're going to see, but then, it depends on game 1 or 2. But looking at, that TBD, it could very well be Bottle Cheese again. But if not, could you potentially see Dave throwing a guy like maybe Jimenez or giving Gackle another opportunity to start? Like, what do you think and see as potential if it's not Bottle Cheese? If it's not, I know, and it depends on who pitches games 1 and 2, because you want to at least win one of those for sure going into that game 3.
It's hard to say because it just depends. The rotation, the pitching staff right now, it's hard to really gauge it because the starters have not gone long, and it's put pressure on the bullpen to come in early. So it depends on if Root can go long in the first game. How many innings can Wood pitch? Do we have to use Jimenez? Do we have to use Bobby? Carter seems to be one of the guys that's first out of the bullpen. I heard somebody say earlier on Twitter that Dylan Carter should get a start. Is it McIntyre? I don't know. It's a good question. It could be any of the guys. I wouldn't be surprised who it is. I don't know. It may be Bottle Cheese again. So it's going to be interesting to see. I know the bullpen doesn't have a lot of lefties right now. So that may be a thing where he wants Bottle Cheese in the bullpen because he's a lefty. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The game 1 is very important. We've got to take that one. We need game 1.
Yeah,
it feels.
Go ahead, Austin.
All right, it feels like I Transplant Texan hit on it too, but I was kind of preaching it last week. It's just it feels like whenever the pitching is good, the batting's good, right? And Zach Root, he's kind of he's the one who starts it all. So if we're talking about like X factors in this series, he's got to be like top of the list, right? I feel if he can go 5 innings and not give up a crap ton of runs, I have a good feeling about this series. But it's going to all start with him, right? And if we're talking about game 3, I don't know who would be best, but the one that I would love to see start is Jimenez. And I don't know what their strategy is going to be. I don't know any of that. But if we're talking about probably the most consistent pitcher on the staff right now, it's got to be him, right? So, and pretty much the reason why he's not starting already is because of the injury from last year, and he was slow, getting back into it. But now he's pitching great. Now I don't know how starting him versus him coming out of the bullpen is going to change. With that, what do you call it? I lost the word for it. Wow. The process of coming into the game, like, the rituals and stuff that they do, it's going to be different in the bullpen than it is for starting. And Hobbs has talked about it, 3 or 4 times the last few weeks. So I don't know. Like, if it were me, I would like to see Jimenez just to see how long he can go. But then again, I don't know. I'm not in there. I don't know the strategies. I don't know what they're thinking or anything like that. So, and like he said, they might want to keep lefties in the bullpen. So,
Yeah, I think that's going to be big because, like you hit on, it's a completely different kind of mindset that you have between coming out of the bullpen or starting a game. Because, you start the game, you're setting the tone for the game compared to kind of coming out of the bullpen. You're either coming out and just kind of shutting things down and getting to that win, or you're kind of putting out fires. More than likely that's the 2 reasons you're coming out of the bullpen is it's time to kind of close this game and bring it home, or you're maybe having to deal with a little bit of issues or fires that you're having to put out. So, and I think it depends.
Routine is the word I was trying to freak. Oh my gosh, routine. Okay, sorry, but I had to say it or I was going to lose it again.
Fair enough. So, and I think part of it depends on, like we've talked about, it's going to depend on pitching. If you can have a guy like Root go, 4, 5, 6 innings, and you don't necessarily need a guy like Jimenez, and you can kind of lock that game up. A guy like Gage Wood comes in and gives you, he went 3 last week. If he can kind of keep up that pitching and, gives you maybe 4 or 5, you can, pencil some other guys in together and, then you have a guy like Jimenez. Or, if, like Hobbs said, if Dave's not necessarily worried about keeping lefties in the bullpen, then you can potentially run Bottle Cheese out again. It just depends on the situation, who gets used. Because like Hobbs said, you really want to set a tone and get the win with game 1 with Root, who's easily been your best starter all year up until, these last few weeks. Nobody's really looked great. But for majority of the year, Root's been your guy. He's been your ace. We've seen him at times be really locked in and pitch lights out. And that's the type of guy that needs to show up tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I have no doubt he will. He played with a lot of fire, and really last weekend he was looking really, really good, and just kind of lost command there later in the 3rd or 4th inning. But he looked really sharp. It's just it's a lot of a lot of these losses have been very close games for us. We've been one swing away from taking the lead, or one pitch away from getting out of the inning where we give up multiple runs. So it's not as big as a concern as most people are making it out to be. This is what's going to happen. Baseball is played that way. They're close games. I've seen multiple teams win it all that are not the best team. It's about who's going to execute when it matters most, who's hot. I mean, Rick Nomura was just talking about this. It's about who's hot, who's playing the best, who can get the bunt down, who can execute the best. This is what happens in baseball. So, the good thing is when you're making mistakes and things like this happen, are you going to learn from it and do better the next time? because what we've seen the past 2 years is we make those mistakes in the regional, and then the season's over. Now we've made the mistakes midway. Now we've got the end of this regular season coming. How's the team going to respond? And what better way to be playing three of the best teams in the country to end the season? What a way to be able to say, hey, let's show them who the hell we are. So I'm looking forward to it. And then 2 of those three series are at home. So, this is what better way to do this.
Yeah. Just let people know, hey, we're not done. We're not down for the count. We had a little bit of a stretch, but even then you look at it too, even with, the 3 series stretch loss that we've lost, we're still tied for second in the SEC. Yeah, we dropped out of the top 10, but rankings, whatever, let them drop us out of the top 10, keep us away from that top, overall spot. Just, let these guys just, have that underdog mentality, have that chip on their shoulder, and let them battle with it. So I'm like you, Hobbs and Austin. I'm excited for this weekend. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good weekend. Arkansas baseball's back. It's a huge weekend for that. It's the last home series for Arkansas softball. They've been killing it this year, especially like we've talked about week in and week out ever since that OU sweep weekend. And so I'm excited to see what this team comes out with, the fire they come out with, and, get a series win over number 1 Texas and, horns down.
Sir.
So, yeah, like I said, jump over real quick. Arkansas softball has their last home game series this weekend. Love it, transplant Texan. Horns down, Woo Pig. Love it, especially with the name transplant Texan. Love to see the horns down. But yeah, so Arkansas softball, they got their last series this weekend. Bree Ellis is, one of the last 3 or in the top 3 players for player of the year. Who else better? She's hitting nearly 500 on the season. She's already gotten her golden ticket, or like essentially being drafted into the Women's Professional Softball League. And it's been insane to watch this team and what they've done. They've really figured out a way to respond after, you got beaten, swept at home by the number 1 team. Like transplant Texan had said, Billboard Bree. If you haven't seen it, there is a billboard here in Arkansas with Bree Ellis on the billboard.
It ain't the billboard, it's the Bree board.
It's the Bree board, exactly. So what she's been able to do for this university, they got one last game to have this weekend. If you're going to be able to go to that game, if you can't go to the baseball game and you're going to the softball game, tomorrow night, the first 1,000 fans will receive a replica Razorback softball jersey. And they're doing some other things this weekend for the softball team. It's a big weekend with both teams being here in Fayetteville. But something I wanted to point out, it's interesting to see. So this is year 2 under a new hitting coach with DJ Gasso. The name sounds familiar. He's the son of Patty Gasso, the coach at Oklahoma. Well, in his second year in the team's second year under him, Arkansas softball has improved its batting average by 56 points. Its on-base percentage by 83 points and scoring by 2.8 runs per game.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That's great.
So,
and, it's pretty good to have, what do you call it? A legacy person like that, a legacy legacy, but someone that's from good stock, if that makes any sense. And just having that, I guess, softball royalty in Fayetteville, it just puts a little bit of extra, zest, I guess. I don't know what the word, but onto that program. And Courtney Deifel's already done an amazing job by herself, but it's just to another level. And it's great to see, some women's sports actually take off like this. And I wish women's basketball would do the same. I mean, I wouldn't mind having, an LSU or a USC or, South Carolina type team in Arkansas with women's basketball, having, a very good, companion for men's basketball. But I'll settle for a good softball team too, I'm just hoping that this kind of is infectious and it just, carries over to other sports as well. But it's an amazing feat what they've done in just the short time she's been here.
Yeah. And part of it too is, you go on the road, you get the big win this weekend over number 2, you move to number 2 in the polls rankings. So you're setting yourself up to, be a top national seed for, the softball regional, super regionals, things like that. So finish it out here. Then you head to Atlanta for the SEC tournament. Similar to baseball, it's the SEC tournament. You've set yourself up pretty good. So don't purposely lose the game. But if you happen to lose game 1 and go home, okay, big whoop. You're still going to be a top national seed. But at the end
what I love about the SEC baseball tournament format this year with Texas, they've added with Texas and Oklahoma in the league now.
Every team gets in.
Huh?
Every team gets in, right?
Well, not just that, but it's single elimination the whole tournament. There's no, you got to lose twice and go home or whatever. So you can lose one game and go home.
Yeah.
So I'll take that 10 times out of 10 now.
Yeah. So big weekend for the Diamond Hogs on both sides of the street there. So best of luck to both of those. Jump over a little bit to some Arkansas football news. Is we talked about it on Sunday on, Arkansas is hiring, and news came out this week too. So Arkansas hired its own prominent attorney, as they're continuing to pursue this whole issue with Madden leaving and trying to recoup that part of that NIL. Well, it came out and was released that there's a second person that, is involved with that, and that's Desmond James. The guy that had the incredible bowl game for Arkansas. He's involved in this now, and it came out today that, they both are hiring their own attorneys, lawyers, and they're not backing down from this, and they're going to fight this. So more to come on that, but that's an interesting to see that battle happening and Arkansas potentially setting a precedent. But thinking about this, and I've seen a few people talk about this and people looking at it different ways. From your guys' perspective, seeing this go down, Arkansas kind of being one of the first teams to do this, do you think this has a negative impact on recruiting, or this is just really, bringing everything back down to earth and being like, okay, yeah, NIL is here in college football, but you still have to follow a type of rules, contracts type of thing. You can't just come, oh, I'm gonna get paid and then peace out. So, what's your guys' thoughts on that?
It depends on who wins. This is a huge gamble that no one else in the country has wanted to take, right? And for Arkansas to lead the charge on this, it's a huge. There's a lot of risk involved with it, right? If Arkansas were to lose, one, you're going to be known as the school that goes after, kids, because this is the most high profile case that's come out since NIL started. But if you win, every school in the country is going to follow, because they didn't want to be first, but they all want this. Let's be honest. If Arkansas wins, it's probably the best thing that's happened to college football since the start of NIL. Having some kind of structure, some kind of rules, because the NCAA, they don't have any teeth to enforce anything like this. The court system does, right? And whenever it's going to be tried at the state level, most likely, I think, because it happened, it's just contract law within the state. So that's going to spread to other states too as well, and it's going to set a precedent that hasn't happened yet. and it will be a great thing for college football. And you know what? That might honestly help out with recruiting a little bit, just because, like, you know, you have your name out in front of everybody all the time. Now it's going to be helpful if Arkansas wins a little bit this season. That'd be great too. That'd be like really hitting home if Arkansas wins the next couple of seasons and they win that case. It's going to just have a lot of publicity on the university, a lot of publicity on the football team specifically. But and here's the thing about that lawyer. I don't know if you guys know who he is. His name's Tom Mars. He is probably one of the best lawyers in the sports industry. I mean, the fact that they got him to come and, you know, represent the university, that tells me a lot, because, like, you know what, on Twitter, I have some problems with some of the stuff he says just because he's a turd sometimes. But as a lawyer, absolute respect. Like, the dude can he can lawyer, right? I don't know what you call lawyering. He can do that. And he doesn't take cases he can't win, right? So he thinks he can win this case, then I'm pretty sure that it's going to at least have a very, very good possibility of winning.
So
and here's the other thing.
Harvey from Suits is what you're saying.
Dude, I mean, if you look at his website, it says he's the Tom Brady of lawyering, basically.
That's funny.
I don't know who said it, but he's got it on his website. But here's the other thing too. It's not really supposed to be like this, but you see it in, like, criminal law a lot, that judges will make examples out of people, and the state has done a lot to help out the state's universities regarding NIL. So they've been pro NIL, and I mean, you can see from the last the bill they did that you know, exempts taxes from NIL payments, right? They're very, very pro that, which is a great thing. But yeah, but they're also trying to protect the universities. There's a lot of legislation that comes out that tries to protect them. So if the state wants, they're probably going to try and use this case as an example of what not, you know, use him as an example and then come down on him. If there's any, I feel like if there's any gray area whatsoever in that contract, it's going to favor Arkansas. And it's super hard to get this done, but once it gets done, it's going to be like a floodgate. You're going to see lawsuits like this all over the place.
Yeah.
Where did Desmond James go anyway? Where is
Cal.
he at? Cal?
Yeah, these damn California teams taking all our players.
So here's what I think. I care less about these kids that left. Care less. Give me all my money back. That's how I feel about it. First of all, I'm a Leva. He left without even playing it down. And he was on campus for what, 3 or 4 months?
Enrolled in January and left in April.
You went to school. You went to your classes for free, I'm assuming. You went to school for free. You got paid a boatload of money, but 18, 19-year-old kid.
To live, work out, and practice football.
Yeah, to use our facilities. And then you left to go play with your brother. You left and went back to the same place that you left from. Okay? You came here, took our money, and left, pretty much. And then Desmond James, plays in the bowl game. I got less hate for that kid than I do the other one because, he showed out and went to play somewhere. But, I mean, why'd you leave? You could have been wide receiver 1 this year. I mean, it makes no sense. Some of the decision-making that these kids are doing, I don't get it. I really don't get it. It makes no sense to me. So quite frankly, somebody needs to teach these kids a lesson, period.
Yeah. And I'm kind of with you on the Desmond James thing too, because what happened with him? He signed an NIL deal, and then 3 days later he transferred. Right? He never took any money. He never took anything like that. I feel like going after him is a bit of a mistake. just because there was no harm. There's no, foul. But what they do have buyout clauses, right? And I don't want to get into it because I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff, but there's certain language that makes them enforceable and some that doesn't. And the ones that do are the university is going to have a hard time proving damages, right? But with him, I mean, like, what they do is the remaining amount of whatever you owe or whatever you're owed, you have to pay back that. So the $200,000 that they're going after Madden with is not $200,000 that he got. Most likely he got around $100,000 while he was here. That $200,000 is from the $400,000 left over in his deal. And it has to do with penalties and damages. If Arkansas can prove damages, then they'll win. But if it's a penalty, then apparently it's not enforced. I don't know why. You signed a contract, you agree to it. I don't know why it's not enforced. That's above my pay grade. But that's basically what it is. But I'm with you that Desmond James thing, I don't really agree with going after him because there was nothing, right?
Yeah.
He was here for 3 days, or he had that deal for 3 days. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, but it all boils down to there's no restrictions on anything. There's no penalty for a guy coming in, leaving. Like Braylon Russell puts the name in the portal, out of the portal, in the portal. You stay and you go, and you stay and you go. Like it's ridiculous. Like we need some kind of regulation, and this is why, like you said, it's so important what happens in this scenario because the whole game needs to be fixed. It's not just us. It's got to be changed for the sport.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too with that whole situation too. It's a little tough because it's like it doesn't necessarily look great to be like pick and choose, be like, all right, I'm gonna go after Mad, but not this other guy that kind of, even though he didn't get any money, still signed a deal and then left. So, if you're trying to set a precedent and get these kids to understand, you can't necessarily pick and choose and be like, all right, we're going to take this one to court, but we're not this one. So, and unfortunately it sucks, but, that if you're going to do something like this, that's kind of how it has to be.
I don't know, because I feel like you can still make the point without going after Desmond James. And it feels just a little bit too aggressive to go after Desmond James, because right now you're not just trying to win the court's opinion, you're trying to win the opinion of recruits, because like you said, it may damage recruiting because you go after kids like this. And then you're also trying to win the vote of the public, right? You don't want to seem like you're just going after these kids for whatever reason, even though they never took any of your money. So that's my problem with it. But I get the being fair and if you're doing one, do it all. I get that. It's just I just don't like the optics of it.
And for Desmond James, it might be, just bad timing for him. He unfortunately, with the whole situation, Madden left, it brought all this to attention. And then, as you look, you're like, oh, well, he did sign something and he left. If he would have, not signed something or waited a little bit longer to leave or left before the bowl game, who knows? But it was almost like wrong time, wrong place for him.
Yeah.
And, that's the situation.
And here's the thing with that. I mean, if you never sent that letter out, no one would have known.
Yeah.
But now that you sent that letter out, you're going to have to pursue him as hard as you're pursuing Madden, or it's going to look weird. Right. So that's now you put yourself in a rock and a hard place. So that's what I don't like about it.
True. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but as we see, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks, what happens with this ruling. And as things start kind of churning out a little bit more, dates, things of that nature happen, and we start kind of feeling or understanding where that's going to be headed. And so that's your little update for, football. Another quick update for you. Arkansas kind of did some more feeling out of the roster over the weekend as they got another commitment. We had the one with Andy Jean last week, the wide receiver coming in. Well, now you have brought in a defensive addition And it's ironic that, we were talking to Rick Nomura and talking about, Hawaiians headed to Arkansas. Arkansas has another one on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, he's Samoan. He's not Hawaiian.
Samoan.
Yeah. Pacific Islander. Yeah. But yeah, no, Frank Molipola, I think that's what his name is. I mean, he's got the size. He's a little bit underweight for what you want to see as an SEC defensive lineman, but to be in the room with everybody and on the practice field, I feel like he could do well there. But 6 foot, 275. I mean, he may be able to like play inside and pop out to a defensive end, or if they go like a 3 front, move them to like a 4-eye technique, something like that. He would be I think he could be he's pretty old too. I mean, he's an older guy. He has a lot of experience. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad one, and they need defensive linemen. So
I was about saying, just from the picture you see him, he's going to be a guy that brings a lot of energy. Yeah, like you said, 6'4", 275.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may not be the biggest, but be prepared. It seems like he's going to be a guy that when he comes after you, you might want to run away. I
mean, Samoans are known for playing good football. I mean, I don't care how big he is. I'll take a Samoan guy. That's I don't know how you say no to him, right? It's like, why not? We got a couple of spots left. Come on.
Right. So there's that. On the basketball front, not a ton going on. The biggest thing that's come out in this past few weeks as we kind of get ready to wrap things up is, you saw Adu Thiero make a very interesting Instagram post. The thoughts out there, what does this mean? Austin shaking his head already. I'm just putting this out there because it's very cryptic, in my opinion, of pictures of him in a Razorback uniform and at a few different arenas. That could be an appreciation post saying, hey, I enjoyed my time here. Here's some of these pictures. Or does that kind of mean something else? Austin?
I don't think it does. I mean, the dude's most likely, he's going to go make a ton of money. Like if he's coming back, I might have to send him a DM and say, dude, what are you doing? Just because I would love for him to come back and play Arkansas basketball, but at the same time, I'm like, you're gonna miss out on a crap ton of money. So I think it's just an appreciation post, and he's a turd for not putting any kind of caption in it. That he's out here trolling the fan base. I feel like, but no, I don't.
Problem. You're leaving it out there for interpretation, and then you have people that run wild with it and being like, "Oh, is he coming back? Is he not? What does this mean?"
You can't tell me he doesn't know what he's doing, right? He's
I'm not
there.
saying he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm just saying.
No, yeah, but
way to play with Arkansas fans' emotions.
Hey, you know what? I don't mind it. He did a great job while he was here, and he can have a little bit of fun. Plus, it gives us something to talk about, right? But no, I don't put a whole lot of stock into it.
I mean, and that's fair. I think the biggest one that if anybody's coming back, you're looking at Carter Knox, and that's what we're hoping to find out sooner than later, whether he's going to come back or not. So that'll be the biggest one. So, in the world of Pro Hogs, in case you guys didn't see it, one Heston Kerstad was involved in an incident in today's game where benches cleared as he was sliding.
Did he get hit again?
No, he was sliding into second, and the second baseman more or less just like hip checks him as he's sliding into second base.
Wow, really? I hadn't seen the thing
I
yet.
just posted
it. Why does that man I feel like he gets the brunt of a lot of stuff.
I think that has a lot to do with it. He's frustrated that he can't stay healthy because he's always getting hit, or the second baseman clipped him there, and it's like, hey man, why don't y'all leave me alone? Like,
you know what's funny? Whenever I started writing for Razorbackers, one of my first posts that did really, really well was about Heston Kjerstad getting beamed in the head. So like he's like, I don't know what it is. He just keeps getting hit, and then yeah, that's crazy. But I got to go check that out when we get off.
Yeah. Quick update for women's basketball. They just announced the signing of Maria Inez Rodriguez from Oklahoma State. She is a 6'3" forward from Barcelona, Spain. So Coach Music is continuously making moves to build this roster up. If you quickly, take a look at this roster, it looks like we're going to have a fairly bigger size teams in terms of height next year. With several people over 6'3" coming in for this roster. I'm excited to see what happens here. You've got a new regime with Coach Music coming in and see what she's going to do. She's had all of the success at Oral Roberts. So can she translate that to the SEC? And like Austin said, kind of maybe you see the success with softball and soccer. Well, can you now do it in the basketball arena?
Can't go anywhere else but up.
Yeah,
fair enough. The way Arkansas has been in the past few seasons, it's hard to get much worse.
Yeah.
And I say that as nicely as possible. Like, we're looking at this as a positive, not a negative. It's like you've got to improve from where you've been. And, maybe a fresh new head coach, getting some new players in here. We've seen it time and time again. Yeah, you may not have the 4 and 5 stars, but that doesn't mean that you can't have success and find success. These 2-3 stars can work just as hard and be just as good as some of these 5 stars out there. So it's not unheard of. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this women's basketball program going forward. But with that, we'll get ready to wrap up here, guys. You got anything else before we get out of here?
No, sir. I'm thinking we're good.
Awesome. Well, big weekend for Arkansas. Texas is heading to town to Baum-Walker. Time to everybody get out there. Let's show this Texas team and this Arkansas team that we have their back, and this Texas team that Baum-Walker is not an easy place to play. You're going to come in here. It's going to get loud. It's going to get rowdy. The hog pen is going to heckle the outfielders out there. So you just get ready. It's going to be a wild weekend.
It is without a doubt the toughest place they've played at, and it's not even close all year. I mean, the other one would be Kentucky. So, yeah, let's show them what it's about.
Exactly. So, first game gets started tomorrow at 6:00. You'll have 7:00 Friday night and 2:00 on Saturday. So, Thursday, Friday, Saturday series again. And then softball is playing LSU this weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend in Razorback sports. Can't wait to see what these two teams do on the diamond. Best of luck to both of them. And before we get out of here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. Make sure to hit that bell. That way you don't miss any time we go live. And everybody have a great rest of your week. We'll be back at you on Sunday, recapping the weekend, and hopefully talking about an Arkansas series win in both softball and baseball. So, everybody, until Sunday, have a great weekend, and we'll see you when we see you.